When a respected NBA analyst compared Alperen Şengün's basketball IQ to Michael Jordan, the entire basketball world went silent. Not because it was ridiculous, but because the evidence was undeniable. This is the comparison that nobody wanted to make out loud, but the numbers don't lie. It happened during a live ESPN broadcast in February 2024. Analyst Tim Legler, a former NBA player known for his deep basketball knowledge, was breaking down Alperen's performance against the Lakers when he said something that made his co-hosts pause mid-sentence. "I'm about to say something controversial," Legler began, "but Alperen's court vision and ability to manipulate defenses reminds me of Michael Jordan's basketball IQ, not his scoring or athleticism, his understanding of the game." The studio went quiet. Comparing anyone to Michael Jordan is basketball blasphemy. The greatest player of all time, 6 championships, 5 MVPs, Jordan's name is sacred in basketball circles. But Legler wasn't backing down. "Look at how he sees plays developing 3 passes ahead," Legler continued. "How he manipulates defenders with his eyes, his footwork, his positioning. That's not just skill. That's Jordan-level basketball intelligence." The comparison seemed insane on the surface. Jordan was a 6'6" shooting guard who could fly and score at will. Alperen is a 6'11" center from Turkey who plays below the rim and facilitates offense. They couldn't be more different physically, but Legler wasn't talking about physical tools. He was talking about something deeper, something that separates good players from all-time greats, to see the game like a chess master sees a board. To understand what Legler meant, you have to look beyond basic statistics. Michael Jordan's basketball IQ manifested in how he controlled games, not just with scoring, but with positioning, timing, and manipulation of defensive attention. Jordan knew where every player on the court was at all times. He could make a move in one direction to freeze a defender, creating an opening 3 passes later. His footwork wasn't just about getting shots. It was about creating advantages for himself and his teammates. This is exactly what Alperen does from the center position. Watch film of his games and you'll see something remarkable. He's constantly manipulating defenses with subtle movements that create opportunities several actions down the line. Against the Celtics in March 2024, there was a sequence that perfectly illustrated this Jordan-like intelligence. Alperen caught the ball at the elbow, made eye contact with the corner defender, took 1 step toward the basket, freezing 2 defenders, then threw a no-look pass to the opposite corner for an open 3-pointer. The play looked simple on the surface, but NBA coaches who broke down the film were stunned. "That's not a play you can teach," said one Western Conference assistant coach. "That's instinct at the highest level. That's seeing the game in a way that maybe 1 or 2 players in the league can see it." What made Legler's comparison to Jordan even more interesting was that he wasn't the first to notice it. Behind closed doors, several NBA coaches had been making the same comparison for months, but nobody wanted to say it publicly for fear of being ridiculed. The response to Legler's comparison was swift and divided. Social media exploded with debate. Jordan fans were outraged, calling it disrespectful to compare anyone, let alone a young center, to his airness. But basketball analysts who actually studied film started sharing examples that supported Legler's point. Charles Barkley, Jordan's former rival and current TNT analyst, was asked about the comparison a few days later. His response surprised everyone. "Tim's not crazy. He's not saying the kid is as good as Mike. He's saying he sees the game the way Mike saw it. And if you watch enough tape, you start to see what he's talking about." Even more surprising was the reaction from players who had actually played against Jordan. Several retired NBA veterans came forward saying they saw similarities in how Alperen manipulates defensive attention and creates advantages through positioning and timing, rather than pure athleticism. One former All-Star who requested anonymity said, "What made Jordan impossible to guard wasn't just his skill. It was that he knew what you were going to do before you did it. Watching this Turkish kid play, you see flashes of that same anticipation. It's eerie." But the most powerful validation came from someone who had studied Jordan more than anyone. Phil Jackson, who coached Jordan to 6 championships, was asked about the comparison during a podcast appearance. His response was measured but telling. "Basketball IQ at that level is rare. Jordan had it. Magic had it. Bird had it. If people are making that comparison about a young player, he must be doing something special." What Legler's comparison really highlighted wasn't that Alperen plays like Jordan, it's that he thinks like him. And in basketball, how you think often matters more than what you can do physically. Jordan's genius wasn't just in scoring 30 points per game, it was in making everyone around him better through his understanding of spacing, timing, and defensive psychology. He could score, but he could also create offense through manipulation and anticipation. This is exactly what makes Alperen so unique among modern centers. He averages 6 assists per game, not because he's just a good passer, but because he sees opportunities 3 moves ahead. His basketball IQ creates advantages that most players can't even recognize, let alone exploit. The comparison also speaks to how basketball excellence transcends position and playing style. Jordan and Alperen couldn't be more different physically or stylistically, but at the deepest level, the mental game, they operate in similar ways. Today, the Michael Jordan comparison remains controversial, and it probably always will be. Jordan's legacy is so massive that any comparison feels like sacrilege to his fans, but what Tim Legler identified, and what NBA insiders have quietly acknowledged, is that Alperen possesses something that can't be taught or trained: basketball genius. Not everyone will accept comparing a 22-year-old Turkish center to the greatest player of all time, but those who study the game at its deepest level understand what Legler meant. Basketball IQ at that level isn't about position or style. It's about seeing dimensions of the game that others simply cannot see. Michael Jordan revolutionized what it meant to understand basketball. Alperen Şengün might not fly through the air or score 30 points per game, but in the most important way, the mental game, he's operating at a level that reminds some of the very best who ever played. The comparison will remain controversial, but for those who truly understand basketball's deepest complexities, it's not as crazy as it sounds. And that perhaps is the highest compliment any young player can receive.